Christian Archambeau,
Meanwhile, we've got Christian Archambeau, Executive Director of the EUIPO, has joined me over here. Good morning, and thank you very much for being with us. I'll hand over to you. Well, thank you, Asha. Thank you. Dear Pascal Faure, colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here with you today and to share the inauguration of this conference with such prestigious speakers. Thank you, LINPI, and the French Presidency, and all partners who are involved in this event. I believe that this meeting will have a positive contribution to our very ambitious program in terms of the country, plus in terms of reform of European legislation as far as geographical indication and intellectual property is concerned. We must keep modernizing the intellectual property system, just as we've already done for certain European brands. At the EUIPO, we have paid a lot of attention insofar as the revision of the rules and model are concerned. We are, of course, available for our colleagues from INPI and other French administrations in the coming months of the French presidency, and I'm sure that the conclusion of this entire business will lead to a significant progress. However, the EUIPO would like to participate in your conference through these two panel discussions on the small businesses and the other one on counterfeiting. We are undergoing a lot of change in intellectual property, and we see that there are quite a few opportunities for us. We are happy to share with you some of the elements that we feel are extremely important for the future of intellectual property. To begin with, the complementarity between countries' rights are not based just on legal basis, but also on a system which is really inclusive in Europe, and that is the careful use of various laws and rights by various companies. National offices and bureaus are our main partners in this collective work, and they work towards a harmonization of work within the European Union. INPI is one of the most active organizations within the EUIPN, and today it's involved in 32 different implementation projects and are working on 13 cooperative projects. Since it was first brought about 10 years ago, we have now more than 1,000 implementations at a national level, be it at IT tools or common practices. Of course, it's extremely important that the officers of the various countries step out of their traditional rules and they make sure that there's an expansion of renovation all over. That would be the best way of ensuring that the country takes full advantage of the economy and of the companies. It's very important today, given that there are 800 billion euros that European authorities are making available towards a green and digital transition for the companies. So this loan will give rise to a lot of innovation and should be protected if we in Europe wish to keep the competitive edge. We completely believe at the EUIPO that cooperation will lead to innovation and vice versa. And together we'll be able to sell the system, the IP system, more simply and more efficiently thanks to our technology. So online tools are extremely powerful so that companies at all levels can record or register their IP. So if you want your patent to be recognized or if you wish to deposit one, it's easy. So in order to link up between IP and country, the Agency for Innovation and for Small Businesses, EUIPO, recently signed a letter of intent and a cooperation in terms of IP management. Now, the aim of this cooperation is to have a better application of IP in terms of European Union legislation, in terms of research, science, and innovation. The importance of this movement towards innovation was also the concern of several players. The World Trademark Review recently published its classification of IP classifications for 2021, and despite a lot of competition, EUIPO was still leading, particularly with the EU Patent Office. Of course, we are very glad to have received this recognition, and so that means the user and the customer is at the very focus of our work. So efficiency and the use of new technology, just like the blockchain technology or AI, for instance, are also a focus of our work. Now, blockchain, of course, gives you secure access to data and quality. Because of its decentralized architecture, you can share it easily, better connectivity between customers and users, and the right to IP, and also accelerates connection and exchanges between the various authorities plus the national offices looking for IP establishment. In terms of registration of rights, this technology will be central for the future to guarantee the authenticity and genuineness of the products and give those who have the rights to receive their rights. Now, the EUIP has launched an international contest to improve the infrastructure. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks to IP, companies remain competitive and edgy in this ferocious world of competition. So all our growth power needs this kind of work, and our small businesses are at the very heart of our strategy within the European Union, and they are the main concern of the EUIPO. It represents about 98% of nearly all the companies and firms. However, less than 9% amongst them really protect their patents and their creativity thanks to the recording and registration of their patents. However, we do know that those who have been involved in this choice have been able to have a better production of 68%. In order to help these small businesses to fight the devastating effects of the pandemic, we launched a series of initiatives. And the Small Businesses Fund was created with the EUIPN that the national offices are part of. Our major challenge is that the aid gets directly to the small businesses to really understand the strategy of intellectual property. So close cooperation between all involved in intellectual property was a must for the success. The backup of INPI in this European Cooperation Pact number 6 was extremely important. Today, more than 13,000 small businesses have taken advantage of the Small Business Fund and have given rise to 31 requests for service, which is about 60% more than our initial aim. It's also important to remember that more than 80% of requests from EU and 80% of France come from micro businesses, and more than 70% of them are the ones to have first-time access to intellectual property, and that we are very proud of. So new small business funds are now coming up with about 47 million euros for 2020-24. They will be reimbursing 75% of their registration costs when they make a regional, national or European demand, and also 60% via the Madrid and the Hague system of INPI. And some good news, something new, they can also ask for a refund of 50% of their patent registration fees if they do it at a national level. Now, in discussion groups of the EUIPN, we are talking about the possibility of setting up a single window for these small businesses. These online platforms will be there to bring together all the relevant resources that small businesses require when they want their intellectual property. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are just trying to reduce the complexity of our networks and to point them in the right directions, be the tools European or national. And I'd like to mention some of the geographical indications, the GIs, which are very important for European economy. Now, indeed, they represent, according to the EC, 75 billion euros just within the EU. Now, IG is intellectual property, which is fundamental rights and which preserves the heritage and the tradition of European way of life. It also creates a value and helps support economy and employment everywhere. For the last 3 years, we are looking at these requests from the agricultural sector for IG, and as a result, we've acquired a lot of expertise. So thanks to all our inspectors who are trained by IG people, we guarantee a high-quality examination and perusal. So the waiting time has been cut down, and so far we've looked at more than 1,200 files. Thanks to our experience, we have an online database, GIView, another example of cooperation between Commission and ourselves. This database provides complete information on protected IGs. So now the general public and professionals can take advantage of it free of cost. So GIView helps to make the system better known within Europe, and this contributes towards our economy. At the same time, producers and those who have IP deeds help apply these, and even all the inspectors of public administration would have a better view of IG. Now, GIView is also a way of fighting counterfeiting. Authorities in charge of fighting fraud will have easy access to information that take advantage of this origin and this label, and so they can contact the authorities concerned directly and also the makers or producers of these protected products. Thanks to these EU-funded programs, EUIPO plays an extremely important role in promoting IG systems abroad or internationally. This supports our European policy in terms of indication, geographical indication in Indochina, China, and more recently in Africa. So more than 80 initiatives of this kind have already been implemented in the last few years. And today we'd like to go a little further. Indeed, today there's just no system at a European level that would really protect geographical indications of non-agricultural systems. However, they are a very important element of local identity and attract tourism and give rise to employment. So a harmonized system would certainly help producers to remain competitive on their own markets. And they would also provide consumers better information concerning the genuineness and authenticity of the products and boost the local economies. And now the Observatory on defects or harmfulness of this kind of intellectual property has shown us what the negative consequences of counterfeiting is for the environment and also for public finances. So the facts presented were also shared with the citizens and public authorities. The Observatory also played an extremely important role in the inclusion of fighting hacking and counterfeiting because it's a priority at a European level. You'll hear about it a little later. As far as a major priority of the French presidency, and that is the DSA services and digital services and then standardization. There's a lot of work being carried out with the EUIPO concerning the rights of intellectual property, particularly the expertise and the networks that have been developed by our experts thanks to cooperation between experts and the intermediaries, and the use of e-commerce on these platforms can really lead to the implementation of this legislation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really together that we'll be able to redesign the entire landscape of intellectual property so that it helps the development of small business and better synergy between those who are in the world of intellectual property. Thank you so much, Christian Archambeau, for all you said. It was a great pleasure to have you here in person.